In this episode, we're talking about the possibility of Canadian recession in 2019.
Thanks everyone for tuning into today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about Canada and the potential for a recession in 2019. This is a headline that we've been seeing coming up in a lot of the news and media outlets. With some of the headwinds that the Canadian economy is facing. This is definitely something that has become a lot more of a concern for individuals out there. So why don't you start, Grant, by shedding some light on some of the headwinds that the Canadian economy is facing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of headwinds that the Canadian that we're facing in our economy. I mean, demographics is certainly one of them. We have an aging population. If it wasn't for immigration, we really wouldn't be growing in our population. So, immigration, although it's happening, it's really important for the future. Housing imbalance is a big one, especially in bigger markets like Vancouver and Toronto. Younger people just can't afford to buy houses in those places, and so that's creating some headwinds, productivity losses, manufacturing leaving the country. We've seen plants closing, GM plants in particular closing down in Ontario. So those types of things are really contributing to the slowdown of the economy. Not to mention like rising interest rates, as you mentioned. That's done on purpose, but at the same time, rising interest rates are slowing down the economy, and so we are seeing a slowdown. We're seeing a slowdown globally, but in the Canadian economy in particular, we're seeing it, and a lot of it is just that we're not as competitive as we could be in other as compared to other countries. We're seeing that on the energy side. And even technology is a bright spot for Canada. Arguably, we're not competitive with the United States as it relates to technology. There's pockets for sure. I mean, even in Winnipeg, we've got some great technology companies like Bold Commerce and companies like that who are starting up Shopify in Ottawa. But realistically, I mean, we're small potatoes compared to the United States as it relates to that area as well.
Speaking about the United States there, a question that I've heard raised is, can Canada go into a recession if the United States is not?
Right. Yeah, really good question. I mean, we're so economically tied to the United States. It's our largest trading partner, and frankly, normally as the U.S. goes, so does Canada. So it's a great question, because can we go into recession if they don't? Yeah, actually we can. It's rare. It hasn't happened in a long time. It's been about 68 years since we were in recession and the U.S. wasn't, but it certainly can happen. And actually there's many out there that believe that the U.S. strength might actually push Canada into a recession, and the belief behind that is if the U.S. continues to grow at such a great rate, we might be forced, the Bank of Canada might be forced to keep our interest rates in lockstep with the United States. So as they continue to grow, they're going to continue to raise interest rates, and we might, just to keep our loonie competitive with the U.S. dollar, might have to increase interest rates as well, and that in turn will slow down the economy even further. So just by the nature of the U.S. growing that much, it might push us into recession. Now, it's not certain that will happen, but it's certainly a possibility that it could happen, as we're not seeing the same tailwinds as they are in their economy.
So with everything we've touched upon so far, how likely do you think it is that Canada enters a recession in 2019?
Good question. I mean, you never really know. You need the crystal ball to figure these out completely, obviously. But, with the people that we're talking to, and many of the economists and analysts are reporting out there, nobody's really putting a high percentage that Canada is going to go into recession this year. The probabilities I saw most recently from Bloomberg were at about 20%. So it's, everybody, the experts out there are saying that it's a low probability. It doesn't mean that it can't happen, but there's no factors that are pointing to it on the immediate front here, basically. As we get into 2020, the further we go out, we know we're closer to that next recession than we are further away. And so, we do need to prepare for that, but at this point, it looks unlikely for 2019.
So with that, we could close off today's episode. Always feel free to check us out at www.whitehoustonwealth.com. You can send us an email if you have any questions that you want us to touch upon at whitehoustonwealth@nbc.ca. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Great. Thanks very much. And ready,
aim,
fire.